Accessing Time Machine Backup from Windows/Linux laptops. I'm wondering if I can access my Time Machine Backup from Windows or Linux computers. I'm just wondering what'll happen if my computer fails and I don't have enough money to buy a new Mac.
It can be read from Linux, by using Ubuntu for example, but it is a tough nut to crack. Windows can't do it at all. The following commands need to be executed as a privileged user. To gain the necessary rights due. You should then be prompted with the root shell. The following came from this URL. It turns out Apple does a couple slick things with the file system to make incremental backups work, including hard linking to directories, which isn't allowed in Linux. So for anyone that needs to access their Time Machine from something other than its associated Mac, here's how you do it. 1. Mount the drive. On Linux, it should auto-mount if you have GNOME Volume Manager installed. If you don't see it in /media, then run Nautilus and check the desktop. Still don't see it? Read man mount. And then don't forget the +flag point to change directory. My mount point is /media/timemachine/. Within that path, I find the directory backups.backup. This represents the directory layout of your backup system. Inside that directory is the name of your disk. Inside there are folders labeled with dates corresponding to each incremental backup that was made. Pick the one you want, or choose the latest symlink. For example, my path is now. 3. Find your files folder. Within that path is a complete representation of your file system. Navigate to the location of your file. If it's not too big or nested too deep, it may be plainly visible. However, there's a good chance that its parent directory doesn't exist. Instead, you'll see a 0-byte file for the parent that takes its name and acts as a pointer. Run ls-l and take note of the first numbered column. Example. After the permissions, you'll see the directory number that typically refers to the number of directories within that folder. For a file, it should always be 1, but here it is not. What Apple has done is adjust the information in this file's inode to use it as a pointer to the directory that contains the actual file. That way, multiple revisions of the same drive can coexist without duplicating data. 4. Find the data. In my case, I want to grab something out of the wallpaper folder. First I made a note of the directory number, 2155704, and then did cd/media/timemachine/.hfs plus private directory data. This is where the data really lives. From there, I just did cd-_2155704, and voila!
I found another script that creates a read-only fuse overlay to implement the TM hard linking mechanism. This URL? I've written a script to automate this pain. Find it here, this URL?
Besides the Fuse file system for Time Machine backups mentioned by STRFRY and written by Kevin Carstensen, there exists an implementation by Ron Petty. In my case, the implementation by Carstensen could not properly resolve all links. The one by Petty worked flawlessly, including accessing older versions of the backed up files. Both implementations require you to install Python Fuse. For Debian-based Linux distributions, the following should do. Then, assuming your backup disk got auto-mounted to /media/jonesdoe/backup disk, you should be able to mount it using tmfuse.py like so. As for Windows, SuperUser QA, opening Time Machine OS X backup files on Windows 7? Seems to answer the question.
I recently put together the ped/tmfuse solution with torrent/sparsebunless in a Docker container with some scripts. It is available here, this URL.
If you want to support the channel, please consider liking and subscribing.